Hello, people. The next poem we have to study is Philip Levine's What Work Is. Yes, as the title goes, this poem is about work. Not any kind of work, not any other kind of work, the real manual work. The kind of work that makes your body tired by the end of the day. So the title can give us ideas. Maybe we may think that this poem is about workers' unions, kind of their leftist ideology. It's not that actually. This is about work and how the tiring work is destroying their spirits and bodies, both. And also the time that they spend waiting to get picked by the employer. Now, this whole setting of the poem is a group of workers. This is a regular sight in America. Some other countries also, Europe and other countries also, you can see this day laboring system. That means anyone can just, wear some regular clothes and wait in a particular junction or in a particular street, and where these employers will come with their car and they will just say, okay, I need this person, or I need this many persons for this kind of job. And immediately those who can get into the car can get the job. They can go with the employer, do the work, get paid for the day, and they can go home. But there is no guarantee that the very next day the same person will get that work or the continuation of that work. So again, when the employer comes next day, it might be some other person doing the work. So it's all about who gets into the car the fastest. So that person gets the job. Also, the earliest person may get the job. Sometimes good wagers will go to someone who comes late. There is no guarantee in this day laboring system. Fun with Dick and Jane, I think there is this movie where Jim Carrey's character is seen waiting for this employer's call. And there are so many funny scenes, Jim Carrey tries to get into the car, but someone else gets into, then finally he is knocked off. And this is the real scene of day labor waiting system. This is a real rat race. There's nothing nice about it. So at the end of the day, either you're tired by waiting or you're tired by the heavy work that you did for the day. So this is basically about waiting and the work and your other brothers. When I say brothers, not necessarily blood brothers, but your other men who you care for. These people, the sympathy that the poet shows for other people who work just like this speaker, that also is very visible in this poem. For example, before that, this poem also gives this idea of, or probably mocking this poem mocks the upper class culture, the upper class art, or the so-called highbrow art. Highbrow art means, highbrow art means the people who are the creme de la creme people, the creamy layer people, the kind of art they enjoy may not be the kind of art the lowbrow people enjoy, the lowbrow arts. That means, below the level of whatever. So those art forms are probably enjoyed by the low class people. So here, there is a line in this poem says that opera is the worst music ever invented. Don't take it literally. Philip Levine doesn't say that opera music is the worst music ever invented. If you haven't heard opera music, here is a sample. Yes, it's not everyone's cup of tea. Some people like it, some people hate it, but Philip Levine is sure that a laborer, day laborer, will surely hate it because there is nothing entertaining for a person who has had work all day and coming to bed to rest. That person needs something with the rhythm, something with the beats. So if you trace the history of several music genres of America, you can see that these originated because people wanted something entertaining, something lowbrow, but something really entertaining. So that is why he says that this is the worst music ever invented. So please try to understand that. See, these kind of a direct or very rude statements that this poet makes doesn't mean that the poet actually says a particular genre of music is the worst or it is the nastiest. No, it means that for a worker, yes, opera music is not going to help him. So that's the situation. So his poet is actually going into putting himself in the shoes of the day laborer, the worker, not from a distance addressing and talking to the worker or sympathizing with the worker, but empathizing with the worker. That's the word you should notice here. The poet is not sympathizing simply, he is empathizing with the worker here. So all about manual labor, there is empathy, there is also importance given to the solidarity and union of the workers, the feeling of a family that is there. So these are the important things that you should be looking for in this poem. So let's study the poem.
What work is. We stand in the rain at a long line, waiting at Ford Highland Park for work. You know what work is. If you're old enough to read this, you know what work is, although you may not do it. Forget you. This is about waiting, shifting from one foot to another, feeling the light rain falling like mist into your hair, blurring your vision, until you think you see your own brother ahead of you, maybe 10 places. You rub your glasses with your fingers, and of course, it's someone else's brother, narrower across the shoulders than yours, but with the same sad slouch, the grin that does not hide the stubbornness, the sad refusal to give in to rain, to the hours wasted waiting, to the knowledge that somewhere ahead a man is waiting who will say, "No, we're not hiring today," for any reason he wants. You love your brother. Now suddenly you can hardly stand the love flooding you for your brother, who's not beside you or behind or ahead, because he's home trying to sleep off a miserable night shift at Cadillac so he can get up before noon to study his German. Works 8 hours a night so he can sing Wagner, the opera you hate most, the worst music ever invented. How long has it been since you told him you loved him, held his wide shoulders, opened your eyes wide, and said those words, and maybe kissed his cheek? You've never done something so simple, so obvious. Not because you're too young or too dumb, not because you're jealous or even mean or incapable of crying in the presence of another man. No, just because you don't know what work is.
Okay, let's try to understand something before I go to the poem. This is base and superstructure, a theory brought by Karl Marx. In Marx's criticism, you have to study base and superstructure because Karl Marx believed that society is made of these two structures. One is base and one is superstructure. So let's see what is base. If you zoom in, you can see that base is means of production, tools, machines, factories, land, raw materials, and also relations of production. For example, the relationship between the employer, the employee, the private property, commodities, etc. Now, if you go to the superstructure, you have art, family, culture, religion, philosophy, and it is again another list: law, media, politics, science, and education. So what is the meaning of these two structures? In a very simple example, I think I can make it clear. Take the example of Kerala culture. The first picture that comes to our mind when somebody says Kerala culture is the pictures of Kathakali, the pictures of Mohiniyattam, of women wearing Kerala sari. So you know that already these art forms or these costumes were enjoyed or preserved only for or wore by upper caste who had all the money in the society, who owned everything. Probably they owned all the land, not probably, they owned all the land. When you say land, they owned all the raw materials, they had all the money. So if there was a business, any business or anything, probably because it was because they had the money. If there was a factory, the owner, for surely the owner was an upper caste because he had the money. And those people who worked in that, the land or factory or whatever the system was, the setup was, they were the lower caste or the lower class, if you are talking in Western society's terms. So they also had, the lower class or lower caste people also had their own art forms. For example, visual art form like Parattu Nadagam. If you go to costumes, they had also some other mundu, the upper parts of the body they were not supposed to cover. They had stone necklaces. They also had their own culture, their special food. It was different. There were raw food, several kinds of things. Whether now if you go to a food fest, you can see that a tribal food section, a different booth is there where you'll get all these cuisine of the tribals. So the Kerala food, when somebody says Kerala Sadhya, you have all these curries, you know all the curries in Kerala Sadhya, it all belonged to, it were cooked and eaten only by the upper caste. So how the culture of the working class, the lower class is removed, and when you go to superstructure, the culture and art form of the upper class is preserved. So art, family system, culture, religion, philosophy, and even the education, even the science, whatever politics, they all were shaped by the people who owned the property or who had the money. So that's why whenever you hear Kerala culture, only the culture of the creamy layer, it comes to our mind. The culture of the people who belong to the lower class or lower caste, it doesn't come to our mind because that doesn't represent Kerala culture. So that's why you get the dominance because of money. So this is an example to understand this. But at the same time, superstructure maintains and shapes base, base shapes maintains. I am not going into this part right now because we need to only understand this much. And when we study the poem, I'll tell you of the two brothers who come in this poem, who belongs to the base and who wants to go to the superstructure. We stand in the rain in a long line waiting at Ford Highland Park. Ford Highland Park is in the state of Michigan. It is this poet Philip Levine is from Detroit. Detroit is in the state of Michigan. Detroit is known for the early 20th century's this auto industry boom. Companies like Cadillac and Ford, they opened their companies, and their work style was especially different from the other companies that followed in the previous time. Ford company, for the first time, they started hiring people for the individual customized works. Before that, that was not the case. Anyway, that is in literary criticism known as post-Fordism. That is a term. If you want, you can take that down for only students who are looking to score extra. But if you find it difficult, you feel free to skip it. Just focus on Ford Highland Park, talking about the Ford company, because in front of all these companies, or in a street where these companies or its outlets or any factories are located, these people will simply wait for the employers to come and pick the workers. So they are waiting. We stand in the rain in a long line. See, the poet starts with we, not I. That means there is a solidarity, there is some sort of unity when he says that. You know what work is. If you are old enough to read this, you know what work is. Although you may not do it, forget you, this is about waiting. So at first he wants to talk about waiting, not work, because waiting is more tiring and wasteful than working. If you are working, you get paid, but if you're waiting, you do not get hired for the day, then your time is wasted, you are disappointed, and when you go home, you have nothing in your hands. So this is about waiting. So he first wants to talk about waiting, shifting from one foot to another. He's talking about the shifting of the body weight. If you are standing for a long time, you want to shift the weight from one leg to another because you're really tired. Feeling the light rain falling like mist into your hair. Even in an unfavorable climate, you need to wait because you desperately want job. Blurring your vision. What is blurring your vision? Rain, blurring your vision until you think you see your own brother. So remember, from we, he is going to you and your. That means he is trying to narrow to the one person or between him and his brother. From a group of workers, he is coming to gradually talking about him and his brother. So you think that you saw your brother in the crowd because every man looked the same. They all wear similar shirts, they all look tired with the sad slouch on the body. So that's what he is thinking. So he says that you feel like you have seen your brother ahead of you, maybe 10 places, because everybody looks like your brother, same body shape, similar costume, dress. You rub your glasses after thinking that you saw your brother with your fingers, and of course it's someone else's brother, narrower across the shoulders than yours, but with the same sad slouch, the grin that does not hide the stubbornness, the sad refusal to give in to the rain. Okay, you mistook someone as your brother because you thought it was your brother. Then suddenly you realize that it was not your brother. There is no way it is your brother, and you will come to that in the poem. Let's continue. The sad refusal to give in to the rain, because everybody is waiting in the rain to be picked up by the employer, not giving into the rain. Just because it is raining, or if it is any unfavorable condition, or if any health problem, they are not going to give up and go home because they want work. To the hours wasted waiting, to the knowledge that somewhere ahead a man is waiting who will say, no, we are not hiring today. So this was a custom practice there. They would simply wait in front of a factory, hoping that they would get picked, and once the factory got enough workers for the day, they will simply come outside, the employer will come outside, or whoever is hiring for the day will come outside and say, we are not hiring anymore today, so you can all go back, because they want to avoid the crowd in front of the factory. Then all those people who were waiting all this time, they had to go back. That time is wasted. You love your brother. Suddenly he is shifting to you love your brother. Always remember, this poem is written in free verse. That means there is no stanza system, there is no rhyming. It goes on like a free flow, just like how work and unemployment, everything, all these ideas clash into this verse. Now suddenly you can hardly stand the love flooding you for your brother. Now these lines, always take it with a pinch of salt, because we don't know what the poet says here. It can have two meanings. One is the direct meaning. Maybe he feels such love for his brother, such sympathy because the brother is working hard to learn opera to get into the upper class. Or maybe this is an ironic way of saying that he hates his brother's attempt to socially climb to the upper class by wasting his money on learning something that belonged to the upper class. Anyway, let's read that poem again. So, you love your brother, now suddenly you can hardly stand the love flooding you for your brother, who is not beside you or behind or ahead, because he is home trying to sleep off the miserable night shifts at Cadillac so he can get up before noon to study his German. See, here the meaning, or the whatever way the speaker talks about his brother, it can have, like I told you, two meaning. One is, see, look at the speaker. He is going to work to support his family, and he doesn't have any upper class, getting into the upper class, that kind of ambitions. He just trying to live from paycheck to paycheck, and he doesn't have any unrealistic dreams, or he doesn't waste his money trying to learn something that is only belonging to the upper class. But his brother now is sleeping off because he was working extra time in Cadillac, another automotive vehicle company. And you know why he is wasting all this work and money for? To learn German, to learn German so he can sing opera. Wagner is a German opera composer, so he can you know, do something or perform something that belongs to the creme de la creme of the society. So that's what he hates about his brother. See, suddenly you can hardly stand the love flooding you for your brother. This line is tricky, that's why I told you take it with a pinch of salt, because he can't stand the love. That means it is overwhelming, and at the same time he is not very happy that his brother is doing it. Works 8 hours a night so he can sing Wagner, the opera you hate most. So because of this hostility, or because of this bitter feeling he has for his brother who is trying to climb up socially, he says that the opera you hate most. Another reason why he says is that it belongs to the upper class, the superstructure. So clearly base and superstructure. Now you can put the ideas into these two compartments of society according to Marx's criticism. The speaker and the brother both are right now in the base, in this space, and the other brother who is now sleeping in this house is trying to climb socially into the upper class so that he can be busy with the superstructure. So the money, the people with the money, the people who own the property, whatever they are doing, whatever they are enjoying, what are their entertainment. So he wants to be in that world, the superstructure world. So that's why the speaker, I wouldn't say hate, doesn't like about his brother. That's why he says opera is something, the worst music ever invented. How long has it been since you told him you loved him, held his wide shoulders, opened your eyes wide and said those words, and maybe kissed his cheek? You have never done something so simple, so obvious, not because you're too young or too dumb, not because you're jealous or even mean or incapable of crying the presence of another man. No, just because you don't know what work is. Now again, in the later lines you can say that there is some kind of balance he is trying to bring back between the love between these brothers. He asks the reader, how long has it been since you have shown any intimacy towards your brother or the other sibling, or the friend who wants to climb up socially, or who wants to do better, or who seem wasting all the resources just because he has a higher ambition. So not because you are jealous or mean or anything, but because I am telling you, that's what speaker says, I am telling you because you don't know what work is. Because if you know what work is, you would do this. If you know how much it takes to go to the other realm, the beyond that horizon, to reach the superstructure, to reach that world where the people with money live, they enjoy, then you need to work. Not any work, you need to sweat. You need to sweat blood, and then you will know, you will value work, and you will value what the other one is doing to reach there, and then you will be able to appreciate it more. So that's what the poem is trying to say here. Again, in the beginning of the poem I told you that do not look at the poem in a criticize or analyze the poem with the leftist ideology, but Philip Levine's collection of poetry, the collection's name is also What Work Is. This is read by many people or analyzed by many people with the help of Marxist literary criticism. Again, remember, base and superstructure. In simple terms, do not go deeper because that is more complicated than what I just told you in the video. Since it is common paper, you don't need to know more about it, but you can see base and superstructure in this poem very clearly. And this mentioning of opera, that is the one word indicating the superstructure, the creme de la creme, the world of the creme de la creme. And you must know that this poem is very suitable, it's an apt work to study or analyze it using Marxist literary criticism. So that is the poem. Please have these extra points for your essay questions and paragraph to secure extra marks.